Chapter 5. I was breathing hard by the time I finished the portrait. My hands were sweaty, my fingers cramped. I don't know how long it took, but I knew that I'd never drawn anything that fast in all my life. Resting both hands on the desktop, I leaned over the pad and stared down at the face I had drawn. A boy's face. Not someone I knew. Not someone I recognized. He had wavy dark hair. One tangle of it fell over his narrow forehead. He had those dark, serious eyes. Gloomy eyes. Deep, troubled eyes. The nose didn't go with the eyes. It was too small and kind of turned up. I lowered my gaze and discovered that I had drawn him smiling. The smile didn't go at all with the gloomy eyes. He had a pleasant face, thin lips, a small cleft in his chin. Wow, I murmured. Was this someone I had seen before? He didn't look at all familiar. Was it just a made-up face? Not the face of a real person? Just a creation of my imagination? I studied it closely, still breathing hard, still feeling the pull of the invisible force that guided my hand. The portrait had so many details. The face seemed like such a real face, such a specific face. I studied the dark strand of hair falling so casually over the forehead. My eyes scanned lower. I had drawn a dark, round mole on the boy's right cheek. A mole? I had never drawn a mole before on any of the portraits I had done, imaginary or real. Never. What is this? I asked myself. And then my eyes stopped on the left eyebrow. A tiny white scar divided the eyebrow in two. That detail made me gasp. It was so real, so distinct. Could I have created that scar from my imagination? Maybe. But why hadn't I ever drawn a scar like that before? I leaned over the portrait. Who are you? I asked it. The dark eyes stared up at me. The boy's thin-lipped smile revealed nothing. Nothing at all. With a low cry, I tore the page from the pad. Then I crumpled it into a ball and tossed it in the trash can beside the desk. My hands still felt cold and clammy. The back of my neck tingled. My throat had tightened. In fear? I didn't want that drawing around. I didn't want to see that unfamiliar face. I wanted to draw my own portrait. I wiped my hands on the legs of my jeans. Then I sifted through the charcoal pencils, searching for one with a broader point. I carried the small, square mirror on my dressing table to the desk and stood it up beside my drawing pad. Inspecting myself in the mirror, I straightened my blonde bangs and wiped a smudge of charcoal off my cheek. I'm not going to draw my freckles, I decided. I'm going to pretend they aren't there. I'm going to pretend that I have smooth, creamy skin like Laura. Laura. I felt tempted to call Laura. I wanted to draw her for the portfolio. I had drawn her before. Those high, perfect cheekbones were so much fun to draw. Laura is so vain, I told myself. My drawings never satisfied her. She claimed I made her look like a brainless bimbo. Martha, why do I always look like such an airhead in your drawings? She demanded after our last session. I paint what I see, I teased. She didn't smile. She always takes herself so seriously. I guess if I looked as beautiful as Laura, I'd take myself seriously too. She made me change her smile over and over. I never could get it right. Now I turned back to my own face in the mirror. I'm going to make you as sophisticated as Laura, I told myself. I leaned over the pad and started to draw. Began with the eyes. No. Wait. Not those eyes. My hand moved rapidly, out of my control. Out of control. The slender outline of the face, the dark eyes, the wavy hair, the turned-up nose. Wait. No. I was drawing the boy again. The same face. I felt a chill, a cold tingle of fear that swept down the back of my neck. No way! I tore the page out of the pad without finishing the portrait. I didn't bother to crumple it up. I sailed it across the desk and watched it float to the floor. I took a deep breath, and ignoring the trembling of my hand, started to draw again. This time I kept my eyes on the mirror, watched my reflection as I drew, determined to draw myself. My own face, not that boy's face, my face. But it was no use. My hand wouldn't cooperate. No, please no. I uttered an alarmed cry as my arm moved on its own. My hand dipped and glided, sketching, scratching, filling in the details of the boy's face. The cleft in the chin, the mole, the round black mole, and now the scar, the slender white scar cutting through one eyebrow, the black eyebrows, arched just slightly over the dark, brooding eyes. No way! I ripped out the drawing and flung it to the floor beside the other one. I quickly brought the cover of the drawing pad down. I shoved the pencils into the drawer. My heart pounded. I wiped my clammy hands on my jeans legs again and stared down at the two drawings on the floor, the two faces. of the same boy, the same unknown boy. Who are you? Who? He stared up at me, as if trying to answer, as if trying to tell me something. Trying to tell me what? Why am I drawing you? Why can't I draw what I want? I bent down, grabbed up both sheets of paper, and ripped them again and again, ripped them into narrow shreds, and asked myself, am I cracking up? Am I totally cracking up? Chapter 6. That night I hurried to meet Aaron at the mall at 8 o'clock. We had a date for the 8:30 movie. He works a weekend shift behind the counter at Pete's Pizza. Aaron's father is friends with the owner or something. Aaron usually gets off work a little before 8. I had trouble finding a parking space near the movie theater. I finally had to park all the way at the other end, near the donut hole. I started jogging across the lot when I realized I left my headlights on. Ah! I let out a frustrated groan and went running back. By the time I finally made it to the theater, it was a few minutes after 8. The lobby was packed with people. I think I saw half a Shady Side High as I searched for Aaron. I spotted him finally at the side of the popcorn counter, and to my surprise, I saw Justine too. She had an arm draped casually around Aaron's shoulders, and they were laughing about something with their heads pretty close together. What is this about? I asked myself. Justine always flirts with Aaron when I'm around. They're always teasing each other and kidding around. But I never stopped to think that she flirts with him when I'm not around. Watching them laugh together, with her arm around his shoulders as if she owned him, gave me sort of a sick feeling. Justine was my friend after all. I didn't want to start having evil thoughts about her. I made my way through the crowd and hurried over to them. Justine dropped her arm from Aaron's shoulders and took a step back when she saw me. Hey, how's it going? Aaron asked. He flashed me his great smile. It instantly made me feel better. Okay, I said. I had decided in the car not to tell him about my strange afternoon, about the face I kept drawing, almost against my will. Aaron has been through so much unhappiness with me since the accident. He's been so good to me, so understanding about my memory loss. Sometimes I don't tell him upsetting things that are on my mind. I don't want him to think that I'm crazy or anything. What's up? I asked him cheerfully. I took his hand. I really was glad to see him. The usual. I had to work. He motions to several dark tomato sauce stains on his sweatshirt. Can't you tell? I laughed. You smell like a pizza, too. Yum. I was shopping and ran into Aaron, Justine chimed in. She twirled a ringlet of red hair around one finger. He said you wouldn't mind if I tagged along to the movies? Of course not, I replied quickly. Just keep your paws off him, I thought. Then I felt bad for thinking it. I have the tickets. Let's go in, Aaron said. We need popcorn? Justine insisted. She made her way into the line at the counter. A few minutes later, she returned with an enormous bucket of buttery popcorn. I got a small, she joked. Aaron guided me by the shoulders into the theater. The trailers had already started. We found seats near the front. I always like to sit as close as possible. I don't like people in front of me. I like to lose myself in the screen. Aaron sat between me and Justine with a bucket of popcorn on his lap. Justine and I helped ourselves. A couple of times I saw Justine's hand brush against Aaron's. I wondered if it was deliberate. Each time she touched him, I felt a cold chill. My phone rang a little after midnight. Startled, I grabbed up the receiver before the end of the first ring. Hello? Hi, it's me? Justine? I couldn't hide my surprise. Aaron and I had just dropped her home half an hour earlier. Are you okay? Yeah, fine. I just wanted to talk. I yawned and glanced at the clock. What is Justine's problem? I asked myself. I spent the whole night with her. We didn't really get a chance to talk, she explained. Pretty dumb movie, huh? I carried the phone across the room and dropped down onto the edge of my bed. Jim Carrey was funny, I replied. He's so gross. He always makes me laugh. Aaron laughed so hard I thought he was going to choke, Justine exclaimed. You know Aaron, I said, straightening the sleeve of the long t-shirt I usually sleep in. And then I thought, how well do you know Aaron, Justine? He's usually the only one laughing at these movies, I continued, shaking my bitter thought from my mind. Aaron laughs at anything, especially if it's gross. There was a long silence at Justine's end. Then she blurted out, I'm really so jealous of you? Excuse me? My cat Rooney jumped up beside me on the bed. I gently pushed her back to the floor. She leaves white fur over everything. You heard me, Justine said sharply. I said I'm jealous. Aaron is such a great guy. Yeah, he is, I replied. Pretty lame, I admitted, but I didn't know what else to say. I mean, what could I say to Justine? Is that why you're coming on to him all this time? I could never say that. She's my friend. And tonight she sounded kind of troubled. Are you okay? I asked. Another silence. I could hear her pacing back and forth in her room. I pictured her in pajamas, her red hair loose over her shoulders. Guess I'm a little down, she admitted, speaking softly. What's wrong? I demanded, pushing Rooney off the bed again. I leaned down to pet the cat, but she scurried out of my room. Nothing really? Everything? Nothing? Everything? Justine replied. She loved talking in puzzles. I waited for her to explain. I just started thinking about things tonight, before the movie, she continued. You know, different things. I had this long talk with my parents. Uh-oh, I thought. Justine's parents were the gloomiest, most depressing people in the world. You know I can't go to college next fall, Justine sighed. There's just no money, and my grades aren't good enough for a scholarship. She let out a bitter laugh. I couldn't get a scholarship to Waynesbridge Junior College. The junior college is kind of a joke with Shadyside kids. We all called it high school, too. So I have to stay home and work for a couple of years, Justine continued. You know, save my money? She sighed again. It's a bad break, I agreed. But it isn't the end of the world, Justine. I mean, you're lucky, Martha, she interrupted. You have nice parents, and they have enough money. You have Aaron. You've got really good grades. You're a talented artist. Justine, stop, I cried, jumping to my feet. You're wrong. I know you think I have a perfect life, but... No, I don't, Justine cut in. Huh? Her reply surprised me. No, I don't, Martha, she repeated, and then her voice became strange, kind of tight, and cold. Your life isn't as perfect as you think, she said. I took a deep breath. What do you mean? I demanded, almost shyly. Silence. Justine, what did you mean by that? I've got to go, she whispered. My dad is shouting at me to get off the phone. But wait, I insisted. I heard a click and the line went dead. I tossed the phone onto the bed, crossed my arms in front of me, tapped my bare foot on the rug. Your life isn't as perfect as you think? What did she mean by that remark? Something about Aaron? Something about Aaron and Justine? Or was it something much worse? Chapter 7. Come on, Rooney, come here. I patted my lap. I was stretched out on the couch in the den in torn jeans and an old sweatshirt, and I felt like holding Rooney and petting her, but of course she wouldn't come near me. Why do cats always have to act like cats? It was Sunday evening, and I was feeling pretty lonely. Mom and Dad were visiting friends across town. I finished my homework early. There was no school the next day anyway, some kind of teachers' meetings. I called Laura to see if she wanted to hang out or something. Not home. Adriana wasn't home either, so now I was stretched out in the den, half watching wet snow drizzle down outside the window, half watching a skiing show on ESPN on the TV across the room. Rooney, come here. The cat turned and strutted away with her tail in the air. I settled back against the couch arm and gazed up at the TV screen, and saw a cabin, a wooden cabin surrounded by snow, snow tumbling off the sloping roof. Oh! I sat up. My head was spinning. I felt dizzy. A flash of memory. The cabin. The snow. I was starting to remember. I jumped to my feet. My heart was pounding. I suddenly felt cold all over, as if I were in that snow, as if I were struggling outside that snow-covered wooden cabin. I shut my eyes, struggling to concentrate, struggling to pull more memory back. I had a picture in my mind, the scene on the TV that brought back a picture. But I needed more than a picture. I needed to remember more. Keeping the snowy cabin in my mind, trying not to lose the strange feeling, I hurried upstairs to my room. I dropped down at my desk, shut my eyes again, and tried to drift into the scene, tried to slide myself into the snow, tried to see everything, to remember. Whoa, 2 cabins. I saw 2 cabins side by side. Snow piled up against the cabin walls, drifts sloping up to the curtained windows, the windows glowing golden, reflecting the bright sunlight, the snow glowing too, everything so bright and clear and cold. Where am I wondered. Do I know these 2 cabins? Have I been there? Is this real memory? A piece of memory coming back? Or is it imagination? I tried not to think. I just wanted to see. And I did start to see. I saw some colorful figures, a bright blur in the shimmering, silvery snow, so hard to see in the bright glare, as if the white light had formed a curtain hiding their faces from me. I concentrated harder. I stared at the colors moving over the snow. The colors formed themselves into people. I saw 4 girls. "Hey!" I cried out as I recognized the girl in front. Me. I recognized me. Recognized my long blonde hair poking down from my blue wool ski cap. Recognized my blue and white ski suit. Concentrate. Concentrate. I forced myself deeper into the scene, deeper into the memory. And my 3 friends moved through the curtain of light, moved through the snow, into clear view. Adriana, Justine, and Laura. They were there with me. I could see their smiles, could see their red cheeks, could see their breath streaming up in front of them as they walked, boots crunching in the deep snow. And suddenly we were inside the cabin, warm and bright, an orange fire blazing in the stone fireplace, mugs of hot apple cider. Yes, the 4 of us were sitting around the table. I could see the red and white checkered tablecloth, the white mugs. They stuck to the plastic tablecloth when we lifted them. The fire leaping, making our faces so golden. And then a knock on the door. The wooden chairs scraping against the wooden floor. Shouts from outside. More pounding on the door. Who is it? All 4 of us jump up. Adriana gets to the door first. I can see her so clearly now. She's wearing a bright yellow sweater, pulled down over navy ski pants. She has a headband in her black hair. Her face is still red from the cold. She pulls open the cabin door. A blast of cold air. Sparkly crystals of snow in the air. I see it all so clearly. But who is at the door? Aaron? Yes, I see Aaron. I recognize his black down ski parka, the black cap pulled over his dark hair. Aaron is there, and 2 other boys. Yes, 2 boys. But I can't see them. I can't see their faces. The 2 other boys. Why can't I see them? I blinked, and the scene vanished, as if someone had clicked off the light. The boys, my friends, the orange fire, the mugs of cider, the cabin, the snow, all vanished. I blinked again, then shut my eyes. I wanted to go back to the cabin, back into my memory. But I saw only swirling blackness. I opened my eyes and lowered them to the desktop. Huh? I uttered a low cry when I realized I'd been drawing on the pad the whole time. Without even realizing it, I had been sketching. I raised the pad and studied it, and saw to my horror that I had drawn the face again. Chapter 8. The next morning, a blustery gray Monday, I woke up in time for school. Then I remembered I had the day off. I tried to get back to sleep but couldn't. When I dragged myself up at about 9, I discovered Rooney curled up and sleeping soundly at the foot of the bed. "Have you been there all night?" I asked her. She didn't stir. I spent the morning doing some errands for my mother. When I returned home a little after noon, I found Laura waiting for me in the kitchen. "Hey, hi!" I couldn't hide my surprise. "What's up?" She narrowed her perfect blue-gray eyes at me. "Did you forget? You promised you'd come with me today." I stared hard at her, trying to remember. Was my memory playing more tricks on me? Laura wore a black leather vest open over a dark brown turtleneck. The sweater came down nearly to her knees, over her loose black jeans. Her black hair was pulled into a simple ponytail that fell halfway down her back. "The photo shoot?" she said impatiently. She pulled open the refrigerator door and lifted out a small bottle of club soda. "Remember, Martha? You promised to come with me?" "Oh, yeah, right." It was starting to come back to me. Laura and I had made this plan weeks ago. "I've never worked with this photographer before, and he has a studio in a crummy part of town in the old village. And my parents were too busy to take me, of course," Laura rattled on. "I'd really feel better if you came with me, okay?" "Yeah, no problem," I replied. I always felt like a wordless wonder next to Laura. She spoke in avalanches. The words tumbled out and kept tumbling out until I felt snowed under. She took a short sip from the club soda bottle. "Yuck, I hate this stuff. But at least it's no calories." "There's some Diet Coke in there," I offered. She shook her head, took another sip, then she brushed back her hair. "They told me not to do anything with my hair, so I just pulled it back. I guess they want to style it when I get there." She set down the bottle and gazed at me. "Did you do something different with your hair today?" I laughed. "The wind blew it when I went out. I forgot to brush it." We both laughed. "How's it going?" Laura asked, her expression turning serious. But she didn't wait for me to answer. "We'd better get going. I like to be early when I haven't worked with someone before. I mean, I know we'll just stand around waiting anyway." She sighed. "It takes these guys hours to get the lights right, and then some fuse always blows. But I don't want to be the one who causes the delay. I mean, I don't want anyone to complain to the agency. They've gotten me some good jobs so far." She finally took a breath. "Want to take my car?" I asked. She took a final sip of club soda. "Yeah, sure, thanks." She pulled her dark blue parka over her shoulders. "Thanks for coming with me, Martha. It's great we'll have a chance to talk." She'll have a chance to talk, I thought. I'll have a chance to listen. A cold drizzle started to come down as we drove to the old village. The wipers scraped back and forth over the windshield. Some of the streets had iced up, but my old Volvo didn't slip and slide. Laura told me about some new outfits she bought at Dalby's department store. I probably bought too much, but Dad says they're tax deductible if I wear them for a shoot. Did I tell you that I may be up for a TV commercial in New York? A cousin of mine, Artie? I don't think you've met him. He knows a talent guy at some big agency there. He thinks he can get me an audition for a commercial, if I can get my portfolio in better shape. The word portfolio made me think of my drawing pad, of the face I had been drawing again and again. I wondered if Laura would recognize the face. Last winter, Dr. Sales told my friends not to try to help me get my memory back. "It has to come back naturally," he told them. "Do not try to give Martha hints. Her mind must return to what happened in its own time." But still I wondered if Laura would recognize the boy in my drawings. The shoot went well. I watched from the side of the studio as Laura posed. The photographer was a funny little man, skinny as a pencil, with a mop of white hair on his head, dressed all in faded denim. He kept talking to himself, never stopped talking the whole time we were there. With his constant chatter, mostly under his breath, he even managed to get Laura quiet. The photos were for a t-shirt company. Laura had to wear 6 different styles of t-shirts. The photographer's assistant, a pleasant young woman not much older than us, acted as stylist. She changed Laura's hair for each shot. Laura looked beautiful, of course, and she appeared so comfortable in front of the camera, as if she'd been doing it her whole life. She kept glancing over at me the whole time. "Martha, sure you're not bored?" I assured her I was having a great time. This is as close as I'll ever come to a modeling studio, I realized. Afterward, I drove Laura home. The drizzle had stopped, but the roads remained icy. The sky was as gray as evening. "I went to a party last night," Laura told me, brushing her hair out, staring at herself in the little mirror in the window visor. "I called you," I replied. "I wondered where you were." "It was at Gary Brandt's house. His parents were away." She rolled her eyes. Of course I got out of control. "What happened?" I asked. She dropped the hairbrush into her bag and pushed up the visor. "Ivan was there." I glanced at her, nearly went through a stop sign. "Really?" "Ivan is really messed up," Laura groaned. "I mean, you wouldn't believe it. He drank so much beer." "He was drinking again?" I shook my head. Poor Ivan. I felt so bad for him. "He drank so much he started dancing, and he passed out," Laura reported. She frowned. "He just fell over onto all the chips and food on the coffee table, and then he just lay there, in the food. What a mess. Stuff spilled all over the rug." She tisk-tisked. Gary and Bobby Newkirk and some of the other guys had to pick him up and stretch him out on the couch. I mean, he was really totaled. "Wow," I murmured. "Bad news." Laura made a disgusted face. "I can't believe I went out with him. I mean, what did I like about him? He's such a total jerk." "Adriana says he's really messed up because of you," I blurted out. "Because you dumped him." Laura's mouth dropped open. Her pale cheeks turned crimson. "Whatever," she murmured. "Don't you care?" I demanded. She shook her head. "No way." Then she added, "He'll get over it." I decided to change the subject. "Justine called me late on Saturday night. We talked for a long time. She seems really depressed, really down." Laura turned in her seat to face me. "What did you tell her?" she demanded. "Not much," I replied, pulling the car up Laura's driveway. "What could I tell her?" Laura pushed open the car door and climbed out. But instead of saying goodbye and closing the door, she leaned back into the car. I was startled to see a strange, tense expression on her face. "Hey, Martha," she said, lowering her voice almost to a whisper. "What?" "Watch out for Justine." Chapter 9. The next day I paid my weekly visit to Dr. Sales. Dr. Sales is young-looking, with long wavy blonde hair, pale blue eyes, and a dimple in each cheek. He wears polo shirts and chinos. He has broad shoulders and powerful-looking arms. I guess he works out. He doesn't look like a shrink at all. I think he looks more like a surfer dude on Baywatch, but he's very smart, and he has helped me a lot. His office isn't what I expected either. He has a poster of Jimi Hendrix on the wall behind his desk, and he doesn't have a couch. Instead, he has 2 comfortable leather armchairs that face each other, one for the patient and one for him. I like Dr. Sales, but I can't say that I look forward to my sessions with him. They're painful, not because of what I remember about last November, but because of what I can't remember. Sometimes I feel embarrassed by how little progress I've made. I mean, when I tell Dr. Sales that I still don't remember anything, I feel as if I'm letting him down. So today I felt excited. Today I sat tensely in the small waiting room, eager to get into the office. Today, I finally had something to tell him. I think my memory is starting to come back, I said as soon as I sat down. I felt so excited, so nervous, I stammered. I spread my clammy hands over the warm leather chair arms and silently instructed myself to calm down. Really? Dr. Sales swept his hand back through his blonde hair. Then he tapped his pencil against a long yellow pad in his lap. Yes, I saw something. A picture in my mind, I continued. He leaned forward. His pale blue eyes searched my face as if trying to read my thoughts. What did you see, Martha? I swallowed. My mouth suddenly felt dry. I squeezed the chair arms. I saw 2 cabins, I told him, in the snow. I mean, it was very snowy. Snow on the ground. Snow on the cabin roofs. The cabin, it was on top of a hill. A very steep hill. He nodded. I instantly felt disappointed. I don't know what I expected him to do. Jump out of his chair? Run over and hug me? Shout, yes, yes, that's wonderful? I don't know what, but I expected more than a nod. That's good, Martha, he said finally. He nodded again. Then he scribbled something on the pad. Is it a real memory? I asked eagerly. Were there 2 cabins on top of a snowy hill? Did they have something to do with what happened? He ignored my questions. What else did you see? I sighed. Why wasn't he more excited? Why wasn't he being more helpful? What else was in the picture? He demanded quietly, tapping his pencil on the chair arm now. I told him the rest, about seeing Justine, Laura, and Adriana, about seeing Aaron and 2 other boys, about how I couldn't see the other boys' faces. Again he nodded. Am I starting to remember? Is it coming back to me? I asked impatiently. I think so, he replied. I waited for him to smile or show some emotion, any emotion, but he didn't. I guess he was just being professional, but I wanted him to be human. I wanted him to help me. This is encouraging, Martha, he said finally. He crossed his long legs. He wore Bass-Weegian loafers with white socks. What else did you see? That's about it. I tried to remember if I had seen more, but the picture had vanished from my mind before anyone in the cabin said or did anything. Oh, I cried out, suddenly remembering the drawings I had brought. He sat up straight. What's wrong, Martha? I pulled my backpack up from the floor and started to unzip it. I almost forgot. I brought you these. I tugged out the sheets from my drawing pad and unfolded them. Drawings I made, I told him, of a face. I held one of the drawings up to him. I keep drawing the same face, the same boy, over and over, I said. I don't know why. It's almost as if I'm drawing against my will. I held up 2 of the drawings, one in each hand. Do you recognize the boy, Dr. Sales? I demanded eagerly. Do you? To my surprise, he was staring at the drawings with bulging eyes, his mouth wide open. No longer the blank-faced professional. He was staring at my drawings in total shock.